All right. Hey everyone, it's Michelle at the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center, and I'm here hanging out with my friends Nanook and Raven again today for our weekly wolf talk. Nanook is very excited because I have some really tasty treats in my pocket today. So today I wanted to talk about something that is happening here in Colorado presently. So if you have been following the news, I know we haven't posted about this on our socials just yet because I wanted to save it for this week's Wolf Talk, but the county of Montrose, which is in southwestern Colorado, is trying to pass a resolution to not allow the establishment of gray wolves in the county. So they're basically saying that they don't want wolves to ever form habitat out there, even though Montrose County has some fantastic wolf habitat on its own. But they are wording this by saying they don't want to establish any non-native species. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, wolves are native to Colorado. We've actually used to have them in every single county out here from our eastern plains out into the high mountain areas. So we used to have wolves all over the place, but unfortunately, we had our very first wolf bounty in 1869. And if you've been paying attention in history class, that was before we were even a state. So by 1890, over 10,000 wolves and coyotes were being killed in Colorado every single year. And eventually, by the 1940s, they were made extinct within the state. So that's called extirpated because they still lived elsewhere. Unfortunately, the county of Montrose, they are just trying to pass this resolution claiming that wolves are non-native because the type of wolves that we have been reintroducing are from Canada. Now, this goes back to one of these big bad wolf myths that has persisted since the 1990s. That is my whole pocket, sir. Because when we first reintroduced gray wolves into Yellowstone National Park, this was the same exact story that we were hearing, is that we brought back these giant Canadian timber wolves. So Nanook here, he's a pretty big boy, but again, like we mentioned last week, he's well within that average size range for a gray wolf. So he's actually an Alaskan wolf, so that's kind of what Colorado Parks and Wildlife is actually eyeballing for the reintroductions taking place later this year or early next year. So not anything different size-wise, hunting-wise, any of that nature. They tend to just be a little bit fluffier than some of our other wolves. So the reason why originally the reintroduction in Yellowstone took place with wolves from British Columbia and Alberta is because the wolves that were already living in Montana at the time, out like Glacier National Park, were captured, collared, and tracked traveling to areas of Alberta and British Columbia. So they are already the same subspecies that was here. We hear about it a lot that we had like a different subspecies, but modern science has actually trimmed down the number of subspecies in North America to only 5 different types of gray wolves. And some of our top scientists question if we should even have less because there's actually no true barriers between the high Arctic Rockies all the way down into the southern Rockies. So there's nothing other than people that could stop a wolf right now coming from British Columbia all on its own down to Colorado, other than, unfortunately, people in states like Wyoming that are hunting them very aggressively. So their whole argument that Montrose is having is that these guys are a non-native species, which already is not the case. Other things that they are trying to say is that they are going to prevent the establishment of any species that has not been here within the last 100 years. So to kind of throw the flaw into that, part of that is that gray wolves haven't been extinct in Colorado for 100 years. They were locally extinct by the 1940s. So we still would have had them at that time, back in the 1920s, like we mentioned. And then another kind of a flaw here is that they are not just listing wolves, which is good, because again, wolves are native, but they're saying any non-native species. So not only does that kind of include, cows and sheep that are all over our public lands, but it also includes other types of wildlife that has been introduced to Colorado. For example, moose. We hear about moose all the time. People are big fans of moose. We love our moose out here. They are the smallest subspecies of moose. They're the sheerest moose, but they're not native to Colorado. In fact, Colorado Parks and Wildlife started introducing moose into our state in the 1970s. Prior to then, Colorado didn't have any moose, and that goes all the way back to the 1800s. Anytime moose were found in Colorado, it was way up on the far northern end of the state, and it would just be like a single straggler here and there. We didn't have an established moose population in the state. So if Montrose is trying to pass this resolution to stop any non-native species from establishing in the county, that would also include moose. Another very popular species of animal that we see here in Colorado that people are real big fans are the Rocky Mountain goats. Now that's not to be confused with the Colorado state animal, the bighorn sheep. But Rocky Mountain goats, our friends that we see on 14ers all the time, if you've ever hiked up to top of Quandra, you've probably seen them. they're not native to Colorado. We actually started to trade those guys for the Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep back in the 1940s with the state of Montana for an introduction program here into Colorado. So if, again, we are trying to say that any species that was not established in the state within the last 100 years is non-native, that also includes moose and our Rocky Mountain goats, along with a lot of other types of wildlife that we have either purposely or imperpusely introduced into the state, like the zebra mussel. That is my whole jacket, sir. So unfortunately, this resolution is just another attack on the wolf population. Like we see, we have, of course, seen lots and lots of these different types of anti-wolf attacks throughout the several years, ever since Proposition 114 did pass. This is just the latest attempt in stopping the wolves from returning to their rightful home here in Colorado. So definitely make your voices heard. Contact the local County of Montrose government. Let them know that we don't agree with this. Wolves definitely deserve their place here in Colorado. They have that intrinsic value, that ecological value, and they just deserve to be here. So if you have any questions, let us know. We'd be happy to go over that next week. I am covered in drool, so I will let you all go for now, and we'll see you soon.